Is their rhetoric putting your life in jeopardy? Further jeopardy?
I can look. You have a lot of very
deranged people in this country.
You have a lot
and
of
assassination squads.
People. I looked at the two that we're talking about. I'm disappointed that the FBI hasn't opened up some of these phones. And one guy had 6 phones, and the other one had 3 apps. And 2 of the 3 apps supposedly were foreign-based. I mean, maybe there was something to it. They should be looking at it. They should be opening up those phones. Why haven't they opened up the 6 phones? And why haven't they opened up the 3 apps? So the first one had 3 apps, and I think they were encrypted, and they were foreign. Think of it. These were foreign apps. Wouldn't you think they'd be opening them up?
We need answers.
It's just strange. Look, we have a strange situation going on. I will say this. I don't think there's ever been a president that's had more support and strong support than I have. When you mentioned Madison Square Garden before, everybody said, you can't do it. How are you going to ever fill up Madison Square Garden? I said, well, I filled up the Nassau Coliseum, and it's almost the same size. And we could have filled it up 3 or 4 times. I mean, the crowds there were the same thing. And when I saw that, I said, let's go for Madison
New Jersey
Square.
Wasn't that small. You've had a number of big rallies.
New Jersey
Let me ask you this.
New Jersey was 107,000 people.
If you were president and your opponent was being targeted in our country by Iranian assassination squads, and you're president, what would you do?
I would tell them, and even if I didn't like my opponent, they can't love me because I'm very critical of them, but I'm critical for a reason, because they don't know what they're doing. Look, we have wars. The Middle East is blowing up. Ukraine would have never been attacked by Russia if I were president. October 7th would have never happened in Israel. All those people would be alive. We wouldn't have had inflation. We would have had Afghanistan, the most embarrassing day in our history, would never have taken place like that. We would have kept Bagram because it was 1 hour, the biggest Air Force base, one of the biggest in the world. We gave it up to China. China occupies it now, not Afghanistan. We gave it up to China. 1 hour away from where China builds its nuclear weapons. Wouldn't it be a great thing if we had that? We walked away. We have incompetent people running our country. They're very dangerous people. They're dangerous because they're incompetent. She's grossly incompetent. Plus, she's a radical left person. And any person that has her ideology, I mean, you could go through her ideology. It's the ideology of a communist. And this country's not ready for that. And I don't think it ever will be. If it is, we're in big trouble.
Let's go to your closing arguments. McDonald's, Al Smith dinner, 3 hours on Joe Rogan, your rallies at Madison Square Garden. I've known you a long time, long before you ever decided to get into this crazy political world that you're in. I think I know you well enough to see that you're having a lot of fun. There's a lot at stake, but I can tell that you are definitely having a good time. Am I wrong in my perception?
Not only are you right when you say that, when you say good time, it's hard to say I'm having a good time because, you know, yesterday I did 3 rallies. I did, you know,
but when you're in front of a crowd,
I've gone 58 days in a row, no days off. Yeah. I'm amazed. She's taken 2 days off in the last few days. I said, you know, you're getting down. I think it was down to we were down to 14 days, and she was taking days off all the time. And you know, she only does. She'll do like 1 little event. And they don't get any people at their events. You know, they bus them in. I don't bus anybody. They bus them in. They don't get people, and when they leave, you saw Beyonce. They came in to see Beyonce. Beyonce didn't sing. They all left, and she's standing there making a speech. There was nobody there, and everybody was screaming and cursing because of what happened. Look, we have a real campaign. This is a movement like we've never had in this country. And it's not a question of, am I having a good time? I think we're making tremendous progress. We have to save the country. Our country... We are a nation in decline. I say it. We're a nation in serious decline. And we can't go through another 4 years. I don't think we could go through another year like this. We have criminals coming into our country at a level that's never been seen before. And to me, the biggest thing, I know the polls say the economy and inflation and everything, but and the border is number 3. I think the border is number 1. For a really great American, the border is number 1 because we're allowing tens of thousands. Think of it. This is announced the Border Patrol, which is so great. They did things which they've never done before. They announced last week how many of different crimes have coming in. They said 13,099 exact murderers, people that murdered people that were in jail, have been released into our country. They said 16,000 drug lords, drug dealers. I mean, everything's exactly detailed onto. They never did that before. They announced the total, but they wouldn't say what the crimes were. Think of it. They've released over 13,000 convicted killers. Many of them killed far more than one person. And they're now roaming the fields of our country. We made America great. And now we're going to make America great again. We're going to make it great again. And we have the formula. It's down pat. This country, we're going to have jobs. We're going to have countries pouring back into our country. You're going to see something. And now I know everybody in Washington. I didn't know anybody. I was not a Washington person. I was rarely there. I know everybody. I know the good, the strong, the weak, the stupid. I know everybody. And we're going to make this country great again. And we have to save our country. If they won this election, our country is finished. She's going to raise everybody's taxes. Every company is going to move out of America. We're not going to have any. She would force them out of America. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's not a smart person, and she doesn't know what she's doing. We're going to use certain things against other countries that have taken advantage of us, having to do with the most beautiful word in the dictionary called tariff. And we're going to make so much money in this country. We're going to pay off our debt. We're going to do things that nobody thought possible, and it's going to happen all quickly.
I'm going to make a prediction. Your threat of tariffs is going to prevent them from putting tariffs on us.
So in Mexico, which is a real threat to us, by the way, in two ways. They're killing hundreds of thousands of people by letting fentanyl, another thing, come through our border. We should stop it. I had it stopped. I had it very close to stopped. I had the strongest border in history. Now we have the worst border in the history of the world. I had the strongest border. The day you saw the chart, the day I left office, I had the strongest border in the history of our country. Now we have the worst border ever in the world. There's never been a border in the world where 21 million people were allowed to come across almost at one time. It's crazy what we're doing. Mm-hmm. But we're going to have a country that's going to be strong and respected again. We're going to have a country where the taxes are going down, where the quality of life is going up. We're going to have a country. They don't respect us. You know, it's interesting. I went to Abe of Japan, Shinzo. He was a great friend. He was assassinated. He was a great gentleman. I said, Shinzo, your deal with us is horrible. He said, I know you were going to come. I said, what do you mean? He said, I knew at some point you would come. For 25 years, nobody came. He said, no American ever came to renegotiate the deal. I knew you were going to do it. And I renegotiated the deal. And I was stuck with a bad deal to start off with. We had a bad deal with Japan. This is Japan. But I renegotiated with South Korea, with this. Now, don't forget, I'm negotiating from a bad place because they have these deals that were made by people that were either really stupid or corrupt. They had to be corrupt to make these deals. We have the worst trade deals. I was fixing these trade deals. I was taking care of our country. But the bottom line is this. We're going to be respected again. We're going to make America great again. And there's nothing in the world I'd rather be doing. I don't want to be in some beautiful beach. I don't want to be sitting in some faraway hotel where it's very nice and watching television or doing something. I want to be doing what I'm doing. It's so incredible. We've made such, and this is a movement. By the way, this is a movement maybe like the world has never seen. MAGA, Make America Great Again. The world has never seen a movement like this. And I think we're doing very well. We're leading everything. We're against the opposition. And the opposition is also the fake news media. They're terrible. Awful. They're really terrible.
So we're not going to have, the Americans won't have to settle, as the Washington Post suggests. You may have to lower your expectations. It sounded a lot like Jimmy Carter telling America to put on a sweater. Look, we're not going to lower expectations and get a townhouse instead of a real house with a backyard. You could have a dog, and you could actually, we should have higher aspirations. Wouldn't oil be that? It would neutralize Putin, it would neutralize Iran, and it would make America rich.
Interest rates are coming down big. Energy prices are coming down. I'm going to have everybody's energy bill from a year from January 20th, when you take office, cut in half. When that happens, everything else comes down with it. Oil is so big. It's so important. And everything's going to come down. But we're going to have inexpensive energy. We're going to have companies moving to our country at record clips, because otherwise they're going to have to pay to do business with our country. And you don't have to pay if you build your plant inside our country and you hire our workers. We are going to have a country the likes of which, and we were getting there. We were very close. Look, I had the greatest economy in the history of our country. I met with two pollsters, McLaughlin and Fabrizio. They said, if George Washington came back from the dead and he brought along Abraham Lincoln as his vice president, they couldn't beat you, sir. And then 2 days later, we had the period of time where we had the COVID.
Trump says he'd beat Lincoln and Washington combined.
They said it. I mean, they said it. But
so if you get back to the White House, I get the first interview, right?
You have a deal. No, you've been a great friend. You're a very talented guy.
Oh, you're very
and
nice.
You've always been fair. I don't want any special favors. I just want fairness. You've always been fair, and I appreciate it.
Last week, God bless you. Thank you so much for being with us.